Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do to speed up your chord changes. So let's dive in right now. Okay, the first thing that you need to do to understand why your chord changes aren't happening as quickly as you want them to, or maybe you've been struggling with changing chords for a long time. One of the biggest reasons why is because there are a lot of biomechanical things that are happening when we change chords. And if we don't work on those, that can make changing chords a lot harder. So let's take a really common chord change that happens all the time and break down all the different steps that your brain has to go through to make that chord change actually happen, and then show you the process of what you can do to speed that up. And then I'm going to give you 2 exercises that you can use to speed up this process. So I'm just going to take a G chord and a C chord, and I'm just going to be changing between those 2. But here's the trick. In the beginning of any chord change, there are 7 actions that are going to happen that your brain has to go through. Now, as you get better and faster, you start to do multiple of these 7 things at the same time simultaneously, and that speeds up the whole process. But let's break down exactly what is happening when I change from a G to a C. Now, let's start with this. Let's assume already that you know the G chord and you know the C chord, because one reason some people struggle with chord changes is they just simply don't know the chords. So I'm going to assume that you know a G chord and a C chord here. So I'm going to start on my G chord, and what has to happen is first your fingers have to form the G chord. You have to get them in position and place them down for that. That's your starting position. So you have to be in your starting position for the chord. And then once you're in starting position, you strum the chord, right? And then here's everything that has to happen after that. You have to release your fingers, change them to the new chord, in this case C, place your fingers down, ready your strumming hand, and then strum the chord. So to do a chord change, those are the 7 things that you're doing. You're doing your starting position, and then you're strumming it, releasing it, changing your chord, placing your chord, readying your strumming hand, and strumming it again. So that's a lot of steps that have to happen just to do a simple change from G to C, right? So what you would do is whatever chord change you're struggling with, what you can do is take it and break it down into these steps, where you start with your starting position, so whatever the first chord is that you're going to play, and then you strum it, release, change, place your fingers down, ready your strumming hand, strum again. And then you release, you change your fingers, you place them down, ready your strumming hand, strum. Release, change, place, ready, strum. Release, change, place, ready, strum, right? And as you do that and you get used to that process, that's going to help you with the fundamentals of it. Now, a key thing to notice here with my chords, I'm thinking about placing all the fingers for the chord at the same time, not going one finger at a time. I'm placing them at the same time every time right here. There are times when you can do it one finger at a time, especially if you're working on a picking pattern or finger picking, and it allows that. That's cool. But for this, for strumming, it's going to sound a lot better to get all your fingers down at once. But like I said, as you get faster, you start to do these things all at once. So for example, I'll strum my G chord, and as I ready my hand, I'll release the chord and change it to the next chord, and then I place it as I start to strum. And so your strumming and your change, all those different steps start to go together. And so that is how you start to speed up your chord changes, by understanding those very small biomechanical moves that your body makes and the different steps that your brain has to go through. If you've been having trouble with chord changes, though, understanding those steps is really going to help you out. Hey guys, real quick, if you're enjoying this video on how to speed up your chord changes, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button down below. That way you won't miss any new lessons that I upload every single week. Now let's get back into these exercises that you can do to help speed up your chord changes. Now, once you've got your chord change down, you've got the fundamentals of it down, we want to speed it up. Now, there's two big things that you can do with this. The first thing that you can do is just set a metronome. What you do is you just get a metronome on your phone and you set it to a certain tempo, like 40 beats per minute or 60 beats per minute, and you change chords with every single click. So for example, I would have G and then C, and I'm doing this as the metronome clicks. So I can also start to develop a sense of flow, a sense of rhythm and timing with my chord change, because when we're doing this in songs, you're going to have to do it with that sense of flow, that timing that is going to have to be there. And doing your chord changes with a metronome is going to help you with that. Here's the other cool thing. As you track how fast you're doing your chord changes with your metronome, you can actually see how much you're progressing, because you're going to see, am I doing this at 60 beats per minute or am I doing 90 beats per minute? Right? And that way you can actually go, wow, I'm getting better, because I can see that I'm getting faster with my chord changes with the metronome. So that's number one that you can do to help speed up your chord changes, is use a metronome and set it to a tempo, and then change your chords on each click of the metronome. Now, another one that I like to do is very similar, and I got this from Justin Guitar years ago, and I've used it for students. It's a great exercise. It's 1 minute changes. What you do is you set a timer for 1 minute, and you take any chord change between any two chords, and you start that timer for 1 minute, and you change as many times as you can in that 1 minute between those two chords. Now, here's the trick. When you're first doing this, just go for speed. Okay, go for how fast can you do it? How many can you do? And not every chord change is going to sound great. But the goal here is get up to where you're doing about 60 changes. And so you're counting every single chord change. So you start with one, and then when you change to your second chord, that's when I have students count one. And then the next one's two, and the next one's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And you count every single change. Don't just count it in your head either. Make sure that you say it out loud so that you can keep track of that. And then once you get to doing about 60 chord changes in a minute, then what you want to do is you want to focus on getting those chord changes to sound really good. Because here's the trick. The chords that you play are going to have 6 strings, they're going to have 5 strings, or they're going to have 4 strings. Or maybe you're goofy and you're doing something that uses 3-string chords and you're... But whatever it is, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're playing the chord perfectly. And so what you do is it's the same idea behind 1 minute changes, but now as you're doing it, it's not just your focus on speed. You're going to focus on, if you're playing a D chord, that you only strum 4 strings. And if you strum it just a little bit slower, you can make sure that you're doing good. And that you're getting all the strings in the chord to ring out and nothing's getting muted. So for example, if I'm changing between D and C, for my D chord, I want to make sure I'm only strumming 4 strings. For my C chord, I want to make sure I'm only strumming 5 strings. Because with those, if I strum 6 strings, right, on the C chord, it doesn't sound terrible because the low E note is actually part of the chord. It makes it an inversion. But with that D chord, it sounds terrible. So instead of going just for speed, it's going for perfect chords and making sure that those chords sound great. So a quick review, guys. First, you need to understand what are the fundamental motions that are happening when you do a chord change. You start from your first chord, you strum that chord, release it, change your fingers, place your fingers down, ready your strumming hand, and strum again. All those steps. And then you get to the point where you're doing that simultaneously. So instead of going step by step by step, you're playing the chord and strumming it. And as you ready your hand, you release and you form the chord and place your fingers down as you strum. And that way you can break down all the fundamental motions that you have to make for any chord change. Then once you've got that down, use a metronome to track how fast you can change chords by turning on the metronome and playing each chord with each click of the metronome, and that's going to really help you track and see the progress that you're making. And then last of all, use the 1 minute changes. Set a timer for 1 minute, count how many changes you can do in that 1 minute, and just go for speed. Now with this too, you're going to be able to track your progress, and you're going to be able to see how fast you're going with those chord changes. When you get comfortable with the 1 minute change, and you can do about 60 changes in a minute, start focusing on your changes being perfect. Make sure that you're strumming the right amount of strings and that every string of the chord is ringing out exactly the way that it should, so that everything sounds the best that it can. So guys, if you use those tips, that's really going to speed up your chord changes, and I hope that helps you out. Now, if you've watched this far in the video and you enjoyed this and you want some more things that are going to help you become a better guitar player and make learning guitar simple, then please go to my website, simpleguitar.com/top10. There I have a guide for you called the top 10 things to learn on guitar first. And it is 10 things I teach beginners all the time to get them playing guitar, having more fun, learning more songs, playing more real music, not stuff like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And it is yours for free. It's my gift to you. It's 17 pages going through all 10 of those things on the list. And that is really going to help you with your guitar playing. I know it. So go to simpleguitar.com/top10, download that guide for free, use it, have fun with it, have fun speeding up your chord changes with these tips today. And I will catch you in the next video.